The first thing Daniel Mercer noticed when he opened his apartment door was the smell of lemon cleaner. Not burnt food. Not stale takeout. Lemon. He froze with one hand still on the doorknob. The lights in his tiny Chicago apartment were on, soft jazz floated from the kitchen speaker he hadn't touched in months, and someone was humming quietly behind the counter. A woman. His boss. Vanessa Hale. CEO of Hale & Rowe Consulting. 42 years old. Ruthless in boardrooms. Untouchable in designer heels. The kind of woman employees straightened their backs around. And she was standing in his kitchen, wearing dish gloves. Daniel blinked hard like exhaustion might erase the image. Ah? Vanessa turned slowly, sleeves rolled to her elbows, dark hair tied back loosely. There was a streak of flour on her cheek. "Oh," she said calmly. "You're home early." Daniel stared at the sponge in her hand. "What are you doing in my apartment?" She looked around casually. "Cleaning." The sink was empty. His counters were spotless. The mountain of dishes he'd ignored for 2 weeks was gone. Even the dead plant near the window had somehow come back to life. Daniel dropped his keys onto the floor accidentally. "How did you even get in here?" Vanessa hesitated. That tiny hesitation scared him more than anything. "I called your landlord." "You what?" "I told him I was family." "Family?" Her expression softened for the first time since he'd known her. "You haven't answered your phone in 3 days." Silence hit the room. Daniel suddenly became aware of how awful he looked. Wrinkled hoodie. Bloodshot eyes. Barely sleeping. Barely eating. Vanessa slowly placed the sponge down. Then she said the sentence that made his chest tighten instantly. "Your mother called the office crying." Everything inside him stopped. The jazz kept playing quietly while rain tapped against the apartment windows. And for the first time in 2 years, Daniel felt dangerously close to breaking apart. Daniel sat across from Vanessa at the tiny kitchen table while she poured soup into 2 chipped bowls like she belonged there. Outside, cold rain slid down the windows of his third-floor apartment. Inside, the warm yellow light made everything feel strangely intimate. Too intimate. "This is insane," Daniel muttered. Vanessa handed him a spoon. "Eat first. Panic later." "I'm serious." "So am I." Daniel rubbed both hands over his face. He still couldn't process the situation. This woman terrified senior executives for fun. Last month she made a grown man cry during a shareholder meeting. Now she was heating tomato soup in his kitchen. "You shouldn't be here." "You stopped showing up emotionally weeks ago," she replied quietly. "Today you stopped showing up physically." Daniel looked away. She wasn't wrong. Ever since the hospital bills started crushing him, everything in his life had slowly collapsed. His mother's cancer treatments, extra shifts, debt collectors, sleepless nights, and somehow he'd hidden it all at work. Or at least he thought he had. Vanessa sat down across from him. "She called the office asking if you'd been fired." Daniel's stomach twisted. "She said you weren't answering." He clenched his jaw. "I've just been busy." Busy doesn't explain the panic in her voice. The words hit harder than he expected. For a moment neither of them spoke. Then Vanessa noticed the stack of unopened envelopes near the microwave. Final notices. Medical bills. Red stamps everywhere. Her eyes moved back to him carefully. "You've been drowning alone." Daniel laughed bitterly. "Congratulations. You solved the mystery." Vanessa didn't smile. "I know what that looks like." That surprised him. Vanessa Hale was rich, polished, powerful. Women like her didn't drown. But something in her expression shifted briefly. Something old. Painful. Daniel leaned back slowly. "Why do you care?" The question lingered heavily between them. Vanessa stared down at her untouched soup before answering. "Because 10 years ago," she said quietly, "someone ignored the signs with my brother." The room suddenly felt colder. And Daniel realized this wasn't about cleaning dishes at all. Vanessa rarely talked about her personal life. At the office, rumors followed her everywhere. Divorced. Secretive. Impossible to impress. Married to her career. But now she sat in Daniel's apartment staring at the rain like she was somewhere far away. "My brother Liam was 26, she said softly. "Funny. Brilliant. Everybody loved him." Daniel listened silently. He stopped answering calls. Stopped cleaning his place. Started pretending he was okay. Her voice tightened slightly. And everybody around him accepted the lie because it was easier. Daniel swallowed hard. One night he didn't come home. The kitchen felt painfully still. Vanessa folded her hands together carefully like she hated this memory. We found him 2 days later. Daniel looked down immediately. I'm sorry. So am I. The honesty in her voice hit harder than sympathy ever could. Vanessa stood and walked toward the sink, rinsing dishes that were already clean just to keep moving. When your mother called, she continued quietly, I heard the exact same fear in her voice. Daniel suddenly felt exposed in a way he hated. He crossed his arms defensively. I'm not suicidal. Vanessa turned instantly. I didn't say you were. But you think I'm falling apart. A long pause. I think, she said carefully, you've been carrying pain so long that you stopped noticing how heavy it became. Daniel opened his mouth to argue, but his phone buzzed violently on the counter. Unknown number. He ignored it. It rang again immediately. Vanessa glanced at the screen. Daniel finally answered with irritation. Hello? A sharp male voice exploded through the speaker. Mr. Mercer, this is your final warning regarding the overdue balance. Daniel hung up instantly. Embarrassment burned across his face. But Vanessa had already seen enough. How much? She asked softly. No. Daniel. I said no. He stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. You don't get to walk in here and fix me like I'm some charity project. Vanessa's expression hardened slightly. That's not what this is. Then what? I asked this. For the first time that night, she looked angry. Maybe I'm tired of watching good people destroy themselves while everyone pretends not to notice. The tension slammed into the room. Daniel's chest rose heavily with frustration. And then Vanessa said something that completely blindsided him. You remind me of the last person I failed. Silence. Heavy, brutal silence. Because suddenly this wasn't just about him anymore. Daniel didn't sleep that night. After Vanessa left, the apartment felt too quiet. Too clean. He kept replaying the image of her standing in his kitchen like she'd stepped out of another universe entirely. At 2:13 a.m., he found himself staring at the container of soup she'd left behind with a sticky note attached. Eat tomorrow too. V. He laughed softly despite himself. Then his phone buzzed. Mom. He answered instantly. Hey. Her fragile voice came through weak but warm. Danny, are you okay? His chest tightened immediately. Yeah. Why? A pause. I spoke to your boss today. Of course she did. Daniel leaned against the counter. Mom. She sounded worried. She overreacted. No, his mother whispered gently. I think she saw something I've been scared to say out loud. Daniel closed his eyes. Cancer had made his mother physically weaker, but emotionally sharper somehow. You don't have to carry everything alone, she continued. I know. But he didn't know. Not really. After hanging up, Daniel noticed another text waiting on his phone. Vanessa. Tomorrow. 8 a.m. Don't be late. And wear a real shirt for once. Despite everything, he smiled. The next morning the office buzzed with nervous energy as always. Expensive perfume. Clicking heels. Phones ringing nonstop. But the second Daniel walked in, conversations shifted. People stared. Because Vanessa Hale was standing beside his desk holding 2 coffees. You're late, she said coldly. It's 7:58. Emotionally late. Several employees nearly choked pretending not to watch. Daniel lowered his voice. Are you trying to start rumors? Vanessa handed him coffee casually. People already think we're secretly having an affair. Daniel almost dropped the cup. What? She smirked faintly. Relax. Apparently you're not my usual type. Before he could answer, another voice interrupted sharply. Daniel. Conference room. Now. Richard Cole. Senior partner. And the one man in the company who openly hated him. Richard's expression was ice cold as he glanced between Daniel and Vanessa. The tension was immediate. Vanessa's face hardened instantly into CEO mode. Dangerous. Untouchable. Richard looked directly at Daniel. We need to discuss the missing client account. Daniel frowned. What missing account? Richard smiled slightly. That's exactly the problem. And suddenly Daniel realized something much worse than unpaid bills was about to hit him. The conference room felt like a courtroom. Richard stood near the screen while financial documents glowed behind him. Vanessa sat silently at the far end of the table, unreadable. Daniel's pulse pounded harder with every slide. Missing transfers. Unauthorized approvals. Client money moved through accounts connected to his employee credentials. This has to be a mistake, Daniel said immediately. Richard folded his arms. Is it? Yes. Because from where I'm sitting, Richard replied smoothly, it looks like fraud. Daniel's stomach dropped. Vanessa finally spoke. Who else had access? Richard shrugged. Daniel managed the account directly. That doesn't answer my question. The room tightened instantly. Richard clicked another file open. $48,000 missing. Daniel stood abruptly. I didn't take anything. Then explain the authorization trail. I can't because I didn't do it. His voice cracked louder than intended. Vanessa watched him carefully. Not suspicious. Concerned. And somehow that hurt more. Richard sighed dramatically. Look, Daniel, if you're struggling financially, people make desperate choices. Daniel nearly exploded. You think I stole from the company because my mom's sick? No one said that. You implied it. Vanessa rose slowly from her chair. That's enough. The entire room went silent. Richard gave her a tight smile. Vanessa, emotions aside, we have procedures. And we'll follow them properly. Her voice was calm. Controlled. Terrifying. She turned toward Daniel. Go home. Daniel stared at her. You think I did it too? I think someone wants you cornered. That stopped him cold. Richard's expression flickered almost invisibly. Vanessa noticed. So did Daniel. Hours later, Daniel sat alone in his apartment replaying everything when someone knocked at his door again. He opened it expecting trouble. Instead, Vanessa stood there holding grocery bags. Again. You seriously need better food, she said casually. Daniel stared at her in disbelief. Are you always like this? No. Then why me? For the first time, Vanessa looked genuinely vulnerable. Because I know what it feels like when life starts erasing you, she whispered. The words landed deeply. Not as boss to employee. Not as rich woman helping poor man. But as two exhausted people quietly recognizing pain in each other. And neither of them was prepared for how dangerous that connection was becoming. Over the next week, everything spiraled. Rumors spread through the office like wildfire. Daniel was suspended pending investigation. People stopped answering his messages. Coworkers avoided eye contact. Even elevators became awkward. Only Vanessa stayed. Every single day. Sometimes she brought food. Sometimes paperwork. Sometimes she just sat silently on Daniel's couch while rain hit the windows and old jazz played softly in the background. It became routine. Dangerously comforting routine. One night, Daniel finally asked the question haunting him. Why are you really helping me? Vanessa looked up from the files spread across his coffee table. I told you. No, he said quietly. That's not all of it. Silence. Then she exhaled slowly. My ex-husband framed someone once. Daniel blinked. What? He blamed a junior employee for financial manipulation he committed himself. Her jaw tightened. That employee lost everything. Daniel stared at her. What happened to him? Vanessa's eyes darkened painfully. He killed himself 6 months later. The room went completely still. Daniel suddenly understood the guilt living inside her. Not small guilt. The kind that changes people forever. I didn't know, he whispered. You weren't supposed to. Vanessa looked exhausted suddenly. Human. Fragile beneath all the power and perfection. Then Daniel noticed something strange in the files. A signature. Richard Cole. Repeated across hidden authorization layers connected to the missing money. Daniel sat forward immediately. Vanessa. She already saw it too. Her face hardened. That son of a bitch. At that exact moment, her phone rang. She answered calmly at first. Then all color vanished from her face. What do you mean she collapsed? Daniel stood instantly. Vanessa grabbed her coat with shaking hands. My mother, she whispered. For the first time since meeting her, Daniel saw Vanessa Hale completely lose control. And suddenly none of the office drama mattered anymore. The hospital waiting room smelled like antiseptic and fear. Vanessa stood near the window hugging herself tightly while doctors moved in and out of the ICU hallway. Daniel stayed beside her quietly. No jokes. No small talk. Just presence. She hid the diagnosis from me, Vanessa whispered finally. What diagnosis? Heart failure. Daniel stared at her. She didn't want me distracted from work. The irony nearly broke her voice apart. Vanessa laughed bitterly through tears. Imagine building an empire so successfully that your own mother becomes afraid to inconvenience you. Daniel moved closer carefully. You came here the second you heard. Too late. No, he said firmly. You came. That mattered. Vanessa looked at him then, not as an employee, not as someone she was protecting. As someone safe. But before either could say another word, Richard Cole appeared at the end of the hallway. In a suit. Smiling. Daniel immediately felt sick. What the hell are you doing here? Vanessa asked coldly. Richard approached slowly. I heard about your mother. Leave. Instead, Richard handed Vanessa an envelope. I also came to warn you. Her eyes narrowed. You're getting too emotionally involved with Mercer. Daniel clenched his fists instantly. Richard's smile sharpened slightly. People in the company are starting to talk. Vanessa opened the envelope. Photos slid out. Her entering Daniel's apartment. Them together outside the office. Late nights. Close moments. Someone had followed them. You had us watched? Daniel snapped. Richard ignored him completely. You're risking your reputation for a man under investigation. Vanessa's voice became deadly quiet. You framed him. Can you prove it? Silence. Richard stepped closer. If this turns public, shareholders will destroy you. Vanessa looked shaken for the first time. Not scared for herself. Scared for Daniel. Richard leaned in slightly. Walk away now, and I can make all this disappear. The hallway became unbearably tense. Then Vanessa slowly lifted her eyes. And Daniel saw something terrifying inside them. Not fear. War. You made one mistake, she said softly. Richard smirked. Which is? You thought protecting him would make me weak. Her expression hardened completely. But you forgot who taught this company how to survive monsters. And for the first time, Richard stopped smiling. 3 days later, Hale and Rose emergency board meeting exploded into chaos. Executives shouted across the conference room while reporters waited outside the building. Vanessa stood at the head of the table in a black suit like armor. Unshakable. Daniel sat near the back, heart pounding. Richard looked furious but confident. Until Vanessa connected her laptop to the screen. Before this meeting begins, she said calmly, I'd like everyone to hear a private conversation. Richard's face changed instantly. Audio filled the room. His voice. Clear. Cold. You blame the desperate employee. People always believe that story. Silence detonated through the boardroom. Another recording followed. Bank transfers. Hidden accounts. Threats. Every ugly truth. Richard stood abruptly. This is illegal. No, Vanessa replied. Justice is legal. Board members erupted. Security entered moments later. And for the first time in months, Daniel could finally breathe. But then Vanessa swayed slightly. Daniel noticed immediately. So did nobody else. She hadn't slept properly in days. Hospital visits. Investigations. Stress crushing her from every direction. As security dragged Richard out screaming, Vanessa suddenly lost balance. Daniel caught her before she hit the floor. The room went silent. Vanessa grabbed his arm weakly. My mother, she whispered. She's stable, Daniel said softly. I checked this morning. Relief flooded her eyes instantly. And then, unexpectedly, she broke. Years of pressure. Guilt. Loneliness. Everything shattered at once. Right there in front of the board. Daniel held her while cameras flashed outside the glass walls and executives awkwardly looked away. She buried her face against his shoulder, trembling silently. I'm so tired, she whispered. Daniel held her tighter. You don't have to survive everything alone anymore. The words hit her like sunlight after years of darkness. And in that moment, every wall Vanessa Hale spent decades building finally collapsed. Not because she was weak. Because somebody finally stayed. 6 months later, Chicago looked different in spring. Warmer. Alive again. Daniel stood inside a newly renovated community center watching volunteers carry boxes through the lobby. A brass sign near the entrance read, "The Liam Hale Foundation. Mental Health and Financial Crisis Support." Vanessa walked toward him wearing jeans instead of designer suits for once. Still staring at the sign, she teased softly, "It's surreal." The foundation had become national news after Richard Cole's arrest exposed years of corruption inside elite corporate circles. Vanessa donated millions anonymously at first, then publicly. And somehow, instead of destroying her reputation, people finally saw her as human. Daniel smiled as children ran through the hallway laughing. "You really changed everything." Vanessa looked around quietly. "No," she said. "We did." There was peace in her now. Not perfection. Peace. Her mother had recovered slowly. Daniel's debts were gone after the company formally cleared his name and settled damages. Life wasn't magically perfect. But it was finally real again. As sunset poured golden light through the windows, Vanessa handed Daniel a small envelope. "What's this?" "Open it." Inside was a photo. Old. Slightly faded. A young man smiling beside teenage Vanessa. "Liam." On the back, handwritten carefully. "You saved her the way nobody saved me." Daniel's throat tightened instantly. He looked up, emotional. But Vanessa was already wiping tears away with a small laugh. "He would have liked you," she whispered. For a long moment neither spoke. Then Daniel stepped closer. "So," he asked softly, "are you still technically my boss?" Vanessa smirked through tears. "No." "Good. Why?" Daniel smiled faintly. "Because I've wanted to do this for months." And as the sun dipped behind the Chicago skyline, he kissed her gently while the building filled with life around them. Not because either of them were broken, but because sometimes the people who save us are the ones brave enough to walk into the mess we hide from everyone else, even if it starts with cleaning a kitchen.